Well, good evening everyone. I welcome you all to the discussion of Civil Services Mains 2022 Ethics paper. We shall be discussing some important themes that have troubled most of you in terms of that what all answers that can be written. We will be picking some questions from section A and then some questions from the section B, that is case study, to discuss it today. Let's see online. Am I audible? Please let me know if I am audible so that I can proceed further. Good evening, Nirmal. Please let me know if I am properly audible so that I can just begin the class. Okay. So I have picked some questions. जैसे कोटेशन बेस्ड क्वेश्चंस में काफी प्रॉब्लम्स आती है आप लोगों को. सो आई पिक सर्टेन थीम्स जो बार बार बच्चे पूछते हैं कि सर इनका आंसर हम कैसे लिख सकते हैं, बिकॉज इट विल नॉट बी ह्यूमनली पॉसिबल कि पूरा का पूरा पेपर हम डिस्कस करें. तो सर्टेन इंपॉर्टेंट थीम्स इन सेक्शन ए एंड देन सर्टेन इंपॉर्टेंट क्वेश्चन फ्रॉम केस स्टडी दैट विल बी डिस्कसिंग टू गिव यू द काइंड ऑफ अप्रोच दैट यू शुड बी फॉलोइंग टू गेट द मार्क्स इन योर पेपर. Okay, so the first question is that ethics is knowing the difference between what you have the right to do and what is right to do. So can you tell me that from which part of the syllabus this question has been lifted? From which part of the syllabus this question has been lifted? Can you tell me? Yes, please बताइए. Ethics के, because to fetch great marks at ethics, it is very much necessary that you understand the syllabus. You understand from which ethical concept the question has been asked. It is very much necessary. Okay. I think the latency is there, so I should perhaps proceed. There is difference, the lag between what I am seeing in that screen and what I am speaking. So, ethics is knowing the difference between what you have right to do, versus what is right to do. So, what are rights? What does right means here? Right का यहाँ पे connotation क्या है? एक तो right है आपके entitlements, आपके claim, और एक है what is right thing to do, सही क्या है. एक है आपके अधिकार और एक है आप सही क्या है. सो अधिकार और सही के बीच में जो विरोधाभास है, उसमें जो कंट्रास्ट है, उस पर क्वेश्चन है. सो इवन यू हैव समथिंग राइट टू डू डज नॉट मीन इट इज द राइट थिंग टू डू. So let us see what all dimensions we can pick up in this answer. You may start your answer by simply highlighting the definition of right, that right is essentially about the entitlement. It is actually a justified claim. Right is about the entitlement or the claim. However, not all rights are the right actions. सारे right सही नहीं है. This right is about rightness and wrongness of human action, that is ethics, and this right is about the entitlement. So now whenever you look at the any question, quotation में कोई भी question आप देखें, you please try to break the keywords down. आपको उन keywords को break करिए और different context में उन keywords को देखिए. So let us see the keywords from the perspective of individuals. Let us see from the perspective of individuals. another important aspect is whenever you are trying to write answer in a quotation based question, as I have told you, I think आपने 7 sins of जो section A है उसको जरूर देखा होगा उस वीडियो को. उसमें मैंने मेंशन किया है कि to write great answer in ethics section A is not just about definitions and examples. It is about writing the arguments. It is about the writing the arguments, and examples are means to substantiate your arguments. ठीक है, ये बात आपको समझ में आई होगी, and that is something the application of which we will see today. So write even when you have right, you cannot misuse the right. The speaker in assembly, speaker in the Lok Sabha, they have certain rights. They have the rights to declare a particular bill as money bill. But they cannot declare all sort of bill as money bill. Governor similarly have certain rights. Assembly को कॉल करना है. They have the rights. But जैसा कि हमने अभी पंजाब में देखा, एक elected government recommended that session आपको बुलाना है, but the government refused. So was it the right thing to do, even though this governor has the right? Similarly, speaker also have the rights, but there have been instances where certain bills have been termed as money bill to evade the legislative scrutiny. So even though you have certain rights, it does not mean that you should utilize those rights, you should misuse those rights. Similarly, there might be a situation when there is a vacuum, right duty vacuum is there. Right duty vacuum, for example, take the case of road accidents. If you are suppose passing on a road and you see somebody has met with an accident, that somebody does not have any rights per se that he or she can seek help from you. And you also have no obligation per se, but to leave that person on the road, is it the right thing to do? Even though that vacuum is there, even though there is no such entitlement of that particular person is there who has met with the accident. Similarly, we see people do not speak whenever they encounter some bad actions or bad things. People do not speak, even though they do not have any such rights. There is no entitlements, no justifiable claims as such. But is it the right thing to do? That some wrong thing is happening and you are keeping mum. Is it the right thing to do? So that is another gap between right and duty. And then rights are about the individualistic entitlements. So at times rights becomes the end in themselves. Rights को हम बहुत ज्यादा individually perceive करते हैं, and because of that we miss the larger pictures at times. Because of that, we pursue the kind of actions that lead to that you might be pursuing the wrong things actually. For example, you take the gun culture in the USA. It is essentially about their rights and the freedom to have those sort of weapons. But has that culture led to some common good? Has it not promoted the kind of violence that we often see? So that is something that we must think. Similarly, certain people misuse their rights. They have, in the garb of freedom of speech, they do something that might not be ethically right thing to do. I hope you are getting my point here. And similarly, as I was just discussing earlier, the rights are individualistic entitlement. Rights are about mostly individualistic welfare, but they might not lead to the common good at times. At times, there might be requirement that you curtail some of your rights. So even though you might have right to privacy, but to pursue that right to privacy single-mindedly. So if you pursue that right to privacy single-mindedly, that हमको तो कोई फर्क नहीं पड़ता, we will not come under any kind of surveillance or any kind of monitoring. So there lies the difference between right thing to do. That is, it might impinge upon national security. In some cases, I am of course saying. Similarly, you take the case of animal rights. Animals also have right to live, but even though they have right to live, they are killed. They have all the rights to live, but letting them live at certain point of time may not be the right thing to do. because it might vitiate the carrying capacity of the ecosystem. Culling of poultry आपने देखा होगा, बर्ड फ्लू होती है. Vermins, nilgais have been declared vermins very times by the state government, the government. So all these are examples of environmental ethics here. That it might be possible that pursuing some rights in a very narrow fashion may not be the right thing to do, because it is more about the larger good or common good. In this case, about the common good of ecosystem stability. In this case, it might be about the national security. Similarly, the case of land acquisitions. Similarly, if you talk about customary rights, the sense of entitlement, may not necessarily be the legal entitlements only. Do not narrowly perceive these entitlements. They might not necessarily be about the legal entitlements only. In the society, in the traditional society, we see that Sati Pratha was legitimized. It was the righteous thing, but was it the right thing to do? It was the claim on the widow कि उनको आपको सती होना है. Even in modern day, you will see that you might not have justifiable legal rights, but even that might provide opportunity that space might be violated and you pursue some wrong things. Take the case of marital rape. Legally, it is not prohibited, but is it the right thing to do? Similarly, you take the examples of rights in private relationships. That's parents, mothers, fathers, do they not have right to pursue their own life? Absolutely they do have rights to pursue their own life, but they sacrifice a lot for their children. We will see many mothers sacrificing their careers for the welfare of their children. So there is something beyond individualistic rights. There is something beyond that. Love, care and concerns, and not just rights. Family is based on love, care and concerns. Sacrifices. At times you need to sacrifice your justifiable claims. You take the case of Ramayana. In Ramayana, Bharat was justifiable king because his father had promised his mother Kekai, that he would be made a king. But even then, he did not accept that. Even then, he had all the right. Justifiable claim was there. Justifiable claim to the throne was there. But it was not the right thing to do. So, what did he do? He ran the administration as the trustee of the Lord Ram. He did the right thing, even though he had all the right. That, my dear friend, is integrity. Similarly, you take the example of Dr. Manmohan Singh. When Dr. Manmohan Singh was finance minister in 1992, he was protagonist of economic reforms. So when he was protagonist of economic reform, those reforms led to devaluation of rupees. And when it led to devaluation of rupee, and he at that time was having some dollar savings for him own. कुछ dollar savings थे उनके पास. He had all the rights over the gains because the rupee had depreciated, meaning his dollar saving has appreciated. He deposited those gains, even though he had all the rights to have those dollar savings gains with himself only. Even then, he deposited those gains in the Prime Minister Relief Fund. That he did the right thing. So, the question is about right versus right, individualistic aspect versus the common welfare, the duty aspect. However, in the conclusion, you may write that our rights are also equally important. It is not the case that that at the altar of common good कि हम individual जो rights हैं उनको sacrifice कर देंगे. Rights are also important because human dignity is also important. and it should be guided by various concerns like societal interest and societal stability. So what did we learn from this question? We learned from the question that to write a good answer, you need to have absolute conceptual understanding of the syllabus. How we can apply it to the private relationship level, how we can apply the societal ethics level, how we can apply it to the larger common good perspective, how we can apply it to the individualistic perspective. So we should know the kind of application this right versus right thing has have in the society. Okay? Any doubt? Please let me know if any doubt is there. Please let me know if any doubt is there. Otherwise, we will proceed to the next question, which is judge your success. Please let me know if any doubt is there. Judge your success by what you had to give up in order to get it. अपनी सक्सेस को जज करिए कि आपने क्या छोड़ा उस सक्सेस को पाने के लिए. What were your sacrifices? What did you leave? Now, when we answer these questions, we must simply break it down. Break it down in terms of the success that we are getting and the things we are supposedly sacrificing or that we should have sacrificed otherwise. The question is about the worthiness of success. Question is about the worthiness of the success. You might achieve success in the short term. Some financial success you might achieve in the short term, but what did you sacrifice? You sacrificed your principles. You might have won the Mahabharata war, but what did you sacrifice? You put a blot on your reputation. I'm talking about the Yudhishthir here. When he said the half-truth that Ashwathama mara gaya. He said the half-truth that Ashwathama was mara gaya. And that was the blot on his reputation and character. Then the kind of post-retirement jobs, you might enjoy that success. That okay, after retirement I'm going to be made a governor. I'm going to be made a UPSC member. But at what cost? Have you sacrificed the principles? Have you sacrificed the trust that people have reposed in you? Have you sacrificed have you done those kind of irregularities? It is about the individualistic level. Similarly, we can see the application at organizational level. To achieve that short-term success, did we sacrifice the kind of regulatory norms that we are supposed to follow? Take the case of Dieselgate scandal of Volkswagen, the case like coal scams or any collusive scam that has been done with the private organizations. To achieve some short-term gain, we have taken some shortcut. So what did we sacrifice? We sacrificed an element of sound work culture, corporate governance. We sacrificed those principles. Is it the right thing to do? Similarly, let's break it down further and see. At times we sacrifice on our loved ones. We sacrifice on our children, wife, elderly parents because we want to achieve so much in our life. We want to achieve so much in our life. बहुत जल्दी सक्सेस पाना है. सक्सेस पाना है तो बीवी की चिंता नहीं है, बच्चों की अपनी जो इमीडिएट रिस्पॉन्सिबिलिटीज हैं, वी आर नॉट लुकिंग फॉर देम. We are not discharging those responsibilities, and that is what we are sacrificing. So does that sacrifice worth it? क्या वो sacrifice worth है जो भी success आप लेना चाह रहे हैं? We also at times sacrifice our physical and mental health. अभी तो IAS बनना है और बाकी physical health हम बाद में देख लेंगे, mental health हम बाद में देख लेंगे. We also look at those things. So the success of something should be seen at the cost of what you are sacrificing. If you are becoming an IAS and you are becoming depressed, you are getting suicidal thoughts, then what is the quality of success? You must judge yourself. If you are achieving success and you are the alone who is tasting that success because your wife, your children, your parents have deserted you because you were not there when you were needed there. But is that kind of success is worthy for you? You might achieve success without actually giving up the things, without actually giving up the ledgers. Work, corruption is work without work. The Gandhian principles, one of the 7 sins. Similarly, you want to achieve the success in the religious field. You want to become guru. Okay, some religious spiritual guru you want to become. You want to have large number of following. So that is a kind of success. But you know, the religion without sacrifice is a sin. So to become that sort of leader, that sort of somebody, who will lead these people, who will lead the followers, you also need to give up your vices. Gandhiji also, put so much effort in giving up his vices. So that story is there. You also need to give up. For instance, once one lady came to Gandhiji and she asked him कि ये मेरा बेटा बहुत ज्यादा गुड़ खाता है. My son eats a lot of good. Please tell him to stop eating good. Jaggery. So Gandhiji told her that please come after some time. And when the lady came back after some time, then Gandhiji asked the son कि भाई इतना गुड़ क्यों खाते हो, मत खाया करो, नुकसान करेगा, etc. That lady was bewildered. उन्होंने कहा कि you could have told the same thing few days ago when I came to you earlier. And Gandhiji said, at that point of time, I myself was eating so much of jaggery. मैं खुद इतना गुड़ खा रहा था, तो how do I have the authority to even tell that person कि आप ऐसा मत करो when I myself is doing that thing. So when you are going to preach something, it is necessary that you also sacrifice. That if you want to achieve success in your leadership skills, in your religious organization, whatever you are doing, that requires at times the sacrifice of the vices. So worthiness of the vices. Here we are sacrificing something that we should not sacrifice. Here we need to sacrifice something. And if we are getting the success, short-term success, without it, then it is not a worthy success. We might be getting lot of money for no work done because of the corruption, but that is not something that we should be proud of. That is not the worthy success. Similarly, giving up one's conscience. You are a police officer and you have, compromised with the investigation for the favorable post, that you should be made an SP in a big district, something like that. Commissioner ban jayenge, badi post ban jayegi, and you are sacrificing. So does their success is really worthy? Will you be effective in that post? Will you be effective in that post? No, my dear friend, you will not be effective in that post. We will discuss this argument later in our different case study that we will be discussing today. On the other hand, we must give the alternative case studies that how people sacrificed. You take the case of Lord Rama, he gave up his claims on throne very easily. You take the case of Gandhiji, so much of sacrifice he did. And that sacrifice, my dear friends, was because of the kind of character this person was having. बात आ रही है आपको समझ में? You further give the examples like Elon Musk, examples like Tata. Tata have given up on excessive profiteering. आपने कोविड में भी देखा होगा, Tata has been used as a model employer. It follows very sound practice of corporate governance that we will be discussing in our subsequent lectures. So we know the kind of success. Similarly, India also gave up the comfort of being an aligned nation, because it chose independence, it chose sovereignty just after become independent. कंफर्ट देते, यूएसए से अलाइन होते, यूएसआर से होते, तो शायद कुछ बेनिफिट मिल जाता, शॉर्ट टर्म सक्सेस मिल जाती, बट लॉन्ग टर्म सक्सेस के लिए इंडिया ने चूज किया अपना इंडिपेंडेंट, अपना सॉवरेनिटी, अपने प्रिंसिपल्स. इट डिड नॉट सैक्रिफाइस, इट सैक्रिफाइस द शॉर्ट टर्म कंफर्ट. So what we mean by this quotation? By quotation we simply means that we must sacrifice the right things and we must not sacrifice certain sort of thing, that is dignity or character, your principles. We will not sacrifice them. Then only the kind of success that you are going to get is something that you can be proud of. Then only the success that you are going to get is something that is worthy. Is there any problem? कोई डाउट है आपको यहाँ तक? So if we can just see, we can see that we have utilized the contrasting approach that I discussed in 7 sins of section A answer writing. कैसे हमने यूज किया है देखिए. Here I have talked about the negative aspect, that how a particular success is not worthy because something that should not be sacrificed have been sacrificed, and something that should be sacrificed have not been sacrificed. That is one aspect. And another is how when you are sacrificing the right things, when you are sacrificing the right things, you are actually getting a worthy success. The question is about choosing the right means. I hope you are getting this sense. So to generate a depth in your answer, you must use this contrasting approach. This contrasting approach where you can use some positive examples and negative examples so as to draw the contrast and tell the examiner that you very much understand that it is not just about that what we should sacrifice. You also know that sacrificing something, sacrificing the kind of things is necessary to have the long-term success. You take the examples of these. Okay, so Nirmal is asking that how many examples you can use in this case studies. See, the purpose of such elaborate discussions on this topic is, of course, you cannot write so much of content in a 10 marker or even 7 minutes. That is not the objective. The objective is to let you see the kind of dimensions you can open up. अगर मैं आपको 2 ही dimensions यहाँ दिखाता, 2 ही dimensions यहाँ दिखा देता, तो आपका दिमाग नहीं खुलता. But now you know at how much level you can analyze. You can talk about private relationship. You can talk about Gandhian sins here. You can talk about this physical, individualistic aspect, institutional aspect. You can talk about all these aspects and the kind of positive case study also you can give. So now you know at least these are the 3-4 main broad headings that can be there in my answers. One is these positive aspects, this sort of things, and the second is this sort of thing, and then I will give you the कंट्रास्टिंग केस स्टडीज. जिम में रखें क्यों? अच्छा, इसको जिम में रखें. देखिए ठीक है अभी. So to answer your question, it is not just about how many example, it is about how many dimensions. So dimensions you try to maximize. Example to will be sufficient, one argument, one example. It will be sufficient. You should not give multiple examples for a single argument. I have given you multiple examples. You just give only one example, Volkswagen Dieselgate. That will be more than sufficient. But not the multiple examples. I have given examples like this, but you should not give multiple examples. You give only one example. That will be more than sufficient. But you need to diversify the kind of dimensions that you are opening up in your section. Diversify करना बहुत जरूरी है. ये diversify नहीं करोगे तो examiner को पता नहीं चलेगा कितनी deep understanding आपकी है. You need to show the level of your understanding to the examiner. Okay, if I have to summarize, I will say you pick 2-3 arguments from here, 2-3 arguments here, and 2 arguments here, and you write at least 7 to 8 very good points, at least. Okay, so Nirmal, I hope I have answered your question here. So this is the question. If you have done the PYQs, you will understand that this question has been repeated by the UPSC. ये क्वेश्चन यूपीएससी ने रिपीट किया है. So that is the importance of doing the PYQs. In fact, there are various themes that have been repeated by the UPSC. So here it has given the statement that the country has to become the corruption free and become a nation of beautiful minds. I strongly feel that the people who can make difference are father, mother, and teacher. So now you can open up to start this question by different quotes. You can talk about that how the process of socialization starts from home and how parents are the first teacher. How teachers also play a significant role in the socialization process, and how that socialization process will make the kind of individuals that will lead to the country of beautiful mind and corruption free. That is the people of integrity, the people who are having sound values. I hope आपको बात समझ में आ रही है. So here you give various examples that what do you mean by nation of beautiful minds and how parents can provide that sort of role. What is the role that parents can play? You take the example of joint family, जहां से उस जॉइंट फैमिली से जिस तरह से लोग कोऑपरेशन करते हैं, काम बांट लेते हैं, वो आपको समझ में आता है. यू टेक द एग्जांपल ऑफ सेल्फलेसनेस. मदर कितना सेक्रीफाइस करती है. दे sacrifice a lot for your family welfare, your welfare. You learn selflessness, you learn compassion from you learn responsibility from your father at times. Yes. So you talk about all these things, religious values, because parents may be following, more often than not, parents follow a religious code, and that code, is passed down from generation to generation. If, for example, you are a member of Sikh community, you will often see that parents will be taking you to some langar, some humanitarian service that might be going on. If you are from a Muslim community, then perhaps you will learn the values of brotherhoodness when you are going to have namaz in the masjid. जब सारे लोग साथ में वो नमाज पढ़ते हैं. That gives the sense of communitarianism and brotherhoodness. So that is the role of parents, that what sort of values they are going to inculcate. Similarly, a discipline. Suppose parents are from military family or police family. Respect for women. How father is treating the mother. How father is treating his sisters and his mother will tell a lot about the kind of values that are there with respect to women. Are they treating the women with dignity? Because if they are, then that is something that the children will definitely learn from their parents. Definitely seeking tolerance. Gandhiji often says that he learned the values of the techniques of satyagraha from his mother. That is the kind of role mothers and parents can play. Mother as the first teachers, and you can also talk about certain practices. It may be through observation learning, it may be through operant conditioning. Operant conditioning समझते हैं? Parents promote a sort of behavior. A certain kind of behavior is promoted by parents. आप कुछ अच्छा काम करके आते हो तो पेरेंट्स आपको रिवार्ड करते हैं, और गलत काम करके आते हो तो पेरेंट्स ऑफन आपको डांटते हैं, ताकि आपके माइंड में एसोसिएट हो कि ऐसा काम ज्यादा करना है या नहीं करना है. द काइंड ऑफ चाइल्ड रियरिंग प्रैक्टिसेस. फॉर एग्जाम्पल, इफ पेरेंट्स आर वर्किंग पेरेंट्स हैं एंड दे आर नॉट गिविंग दैट मच ऑफ टाइम टू देयर वर्ड, एंड इनफैक्ट अगर बच्चा रो रहा है, परेशान हो रहा है, उसको डांट के चुप करा दे रहे हैं, then that child will become apathetic. He will himself become apathetic and he will not be sensitive to the emotions of other, because he is suppressing his emotions. So how will the country become the nation of beautiful minds if the parents are like this? On the other hand, the contrasting approach, you can use the examples of mothers of Gandhiji. You talk about the Jijabai, talk about the mother of Shivaji. What is the role that they have played? Similarly, talk about teachers, how teachers are actually agents of change, because students are like kora kagaj only. They are like the blank paper. They not just mentor and guide, they help the children dream. आप बताइए, there are so many professors, there are so many teachers who have inspired various students to pursue the kind of professions. आप ना केवल ड्रीम दिखाएंगे, अरे आप IAS बनिए, आप साइंटिस्ट बनिए, आप जो बनिए. टीचर्स बहुत सारे प्रोफेशंस के बारे में, इट इज ऑफन द टीचर्स हु टेल द स्टूडेंट्स फॉर द फर्स्ट टाइम दैट दीज आर द टाइप्स ऑफ प्रोफेशंस, एंड प्रोबेबली इट माइट फैसिनेट वन और टू students there, and he might pursue that path. And it is a teacher only who will tell the path, not just the dream, but the path also. So that is how the role. The pedagogy. What kind of pedagogy? How they are teaching? Does their teaching is promoting the rote learning, or does it promote the critical thinking? क्या रट्टा मरवाने में फोकस है, या it is about the enabling the students to think for themselves? There have been various teachers who uses these techniques. If you will be taking part in the ethics course, you will see that that is the techniques that we use. I will be giving you certain assignments, home assignments मैं आपको दूंगा, जिनमें you will be asked to brainstorm on certain questions, and those questions will enable you to think. They will force you to think on certain critical aspect. आपका दिमाग खोलेंगे वो क्वेश्चन. In homework, I will be giving you certain questions. They themselves can become the role models. Certain teachers are so much passionate about being disciplined. The attitude of service is there. If a government teacher is there, the attitude of service is there. And that is something that at times motivate the children, the students. For them, they act as role models. बात आ रही है समझ में? You can talk about, you can give the examples of Chanakya and Chandragupta. You can give the examples of teachers like S.C. Verma, who have promoted such critical thinking. Scientific temper कितना promote किया अपनी वो concept of physics से. How many people would have pursued physics because the Professor Verma made those students fall in love with the subjects. उन सब्जेक्ट से प्यार हो गया, समझ में इतना इंटरेस्ट आ गया कि वो फिजिक्स ही परस्यू करने चले गए बाहर. कितने सारे स्टूडेंट को इंस्पायर किया है, कितने सारे स्टूडेंट को साइंटिफिक टेम्पर डेवलप किया है. You talk about the Ramangan, so you give the examples where you are talking about that how parents and teachers, you give the case studies of Shivaji, Mahatma Gandhi, case studies of Chandragupta, case study of S.C. Verma, where you talk about how the teachers and parents have played a significant role in making a country of beautiful minds. But my dear friend, that should not be the end of your answer. Why? Because the question is saying, what does the quotation means to you? The quotation simply means that yes, we understand the kind of role, the kind of importance that is there with the parents and teacher, but we also understand the kind of challenges we are living in. So just before the conclusion, you may mention any of these factors. One or two factors you may mention, that because of neglection of family, because of the working of parents, because of the misconduct by the teachers, commodification of education, that this process is getting vitiated. You give this critical aspect. This critical aspect is very important in your answer. Because if you are not giving a critical aspect, then answer justice nahi kar rahe ho. Quotation is saying, what does it mean to you? Mean to you that yes, I understand the value of this, and it is all the more necessary in present times, and this is the factors because of which it has been vitiated. So you must highlight the dynamic aspect, and that is also something that we will look at, that when we will be having these classes, that for every value you talk about objectivity. If I ask you objectivity पढ़ते हैं आप? What is the keyword that is associated with objectivity? Objectivity is about a decision based on facts. That keyword must be there in your answer. Facts based in decision making. But is there any downside? Is there any critical perspective with respect to objectivity? That is also you must know. If you do not know, then you will not be able to answer the question. फॉर एग्जाम्पल, अभी थोड़े दिन पहले एक बच्चा मुझे आंसर दिखा रहा था कि सर ये देखिए कितना अच्छा आंसर मैंने लिखा है. क्वेश्चन था कि बिसाइड्स ऑब्जेक्टिविटी, एम्पैथी एंड कंपैशन आर आल्सो नेसेसरी टू रिजॉल्व द एथिकल डिलेमा. बिसाइड्स ऑब्जेक्टिविटी, कंपैशन एंड एम्पैथी आर नेसेसरी टू रिजॉल्व द एथिकल डिलेमा. क्या कर रखा था अपने आंसर में? पूरे आंसर में ऑब्जेक्टिविटी की डेफिनेशन थी, एग्जाम्पल्स थे, कंपैशन और एम्पैथी की डेफिनेशन थे, एग्जाम्पल थे, आंसर था. मैंने उनसे पूछा क्या इसका यही आंसर है? अगर मैं आपको क्वेश्चन ये दे दूं कि ऑब्जेक्टिविटी, एम्पैथी एंड कंपैशन आर इंपॉर्टेंट टू रिजॉल्व एथिकल डिलेमा, देन आल्सो द आंसर विल बी सेम. द क्वेश्चन इज आस्किंग बिसाइड्स ऑब्जेक्टिविटी. क्वेश्चन is asking you to look at the importance of empathy and compassion in the background of objectivity, in the background of limitations of objectivity to resolve ethical dilemma. And that you will only be able to write when you understand the limitations of objectivity, when you have this critical perspective that you need to go beyond definitions and examples. You need to go beyond definitions and example to write a good answer. फॉर एग्जाम्पल यू टेक द केस ऑफ स्कीम वाला जो केस आता है कि एक बूढ़ी महिला, सम ओल्ड लेडी हैज कम and you are the person who is disbursing the benefit, PDS benefit you are disbursing, and that lady, does not have the document, and she is very hungry and she might die, something like that. So what will you do? So if you are following objectivity in a very crude manner, objectivity means taking decision based on facts, and facts of the case are that lady is not eligible to get benefit under the PDS because she is not having the right documents, or she might not be eligible under that particular scheme. Is it the right thing to do? No. In this case, empathy and compassion will help you in resolving the dilemma while perhaps exploring the alternative routes or doing something else, but not violating the rule of law, objectivity. So this is the example that proves that how in the background of limitations of objectivity, empathy and compassion are also important to resolve ethical dilemma. So my dear friends, when you prepare this section A, always prepare from the perspective of limitations also. लिमिटेशंस का जरूर ध्यान रखना है, तभी अच्छा नंबर आएगा. ये बात आपको समझ में आ रही है? सो दैट डायनामिक पार्ट, दैट क्रिटिकल पार्ट जरूर आपको पता होना चाहिए, बिकॉज क्वेश्चंस उस डायनामिक पार्ट से काफी ज्यादा बनते हैं. So let us move on to the next question. If there is any doubt till this point of time, kindly let me know. I will try to address it. Wisdom lies in knowing what to reckon with and what to overlook. An officer being engrossed with the periphery, ignoring the core issues before him, is no rare in the bureaucracy. Do you agree? And if that such preoccupation leads to travesty of justice to the cause of effective service delivery and good governance. One takeaway from this year's paper is that even section A have become quite lengthy. Even the nature of the question that has been asked in section A is like paragraph. They are giving you sort of paragraph. Okay, it is just to, guess you for the time. So what could be the introduction? What is the key value that is highlighted? Key value that you are not able to have you are not able to have a very, prudent outlook. You are engrossed with the issues at the periphery and you are not solving the core issue that is there. Core issue solve नहीं कर रहे हैं, peripheral issues को हम solve कर रहे हैं. So how we can address these questions? You can address these questions by highlighting various aspects of governance where you see this phenomenon. The bureaucrats often become, क्या कोई doubt है क्या? Okay. Bureaucrats become often engrossed in the rules and regulations, so much so that rules and regulations become an end in themselves. Rules and regulations becomes end in themselves because they are engrossed with the periphery. For them, rules and regulations are the end in themselves. You, for example, you take the case, I think last year एक घटना हुई थी, the presidential visit was there. The presidential visit was there in I think Kanpur, and because of that the traffic movement was stopped. So one lady, she died in the traffic jam, because the traffic constable did not allow her to go to the hospital because he was following rules. Now what kind of example is this? This is the example where that traffic constable was engrossed. He was engrossed in rules becoming end. He was engrossed in this rule driven mindset कि मुझे तो खाली mindlessly rules implement करने हैं. I am not able to look at the core issue, which is public welfare. Bureaucracy exists for public interest. Bureaucracy exists for public welfare. So rules becoming end. That aspect is there. What could be the another aspect? That you do the inspection. You take the case of inspections. You will often see the various bureaucrats जो साथ में कैमरा लेके चलते हैं. Yes, कैमरा लेके वो चलेंगे and what they will do? They'll post those videos for YouTube and all these social media accounts. And the ostensible purpose is not to do the grievance redressal or find the causes for systemic reforms, but for the self-publicity. So they are so engrossed with the peripheral aspect of this, advertisement or being publicity, seeking publicity, that they do not address the systemic issue that might be there. Array, you went to in a particular school for inspection and you found out that the teachers have not come on time. Various teachers are absent. What does it mean? और आपने वहां पे जाके उनको सस्पेंड कर दिया और आगे, और साथ में मीडिया कवरेज ले ली बढ़िया सी कि सो एंड सो ऑफिसर ने जाबाज और जाबाज ऑफिसर ने ऐसा कुछ किया है. बट व्हाट वाज द सिस्टमिक इश्यू जो केस स्टडी में सॉल्व करने को मैंने आपको बोला है? सिस्टमिक इश्यू वाज यू शुड हैव पुट सम सिस्टमिक मेजर्स इन प्लेस सो दैट that sort of problem should not occur in all other schools in the area. Because is it the case that only that school is suffering from the absenteeism of the teachers or the late arrival of the teachers? No, it might be with other people also. So you need to put in the place. So you need to identify the core issue and not just be grappled with the peripheral issue. There might be issue like grievance redressal, work culture that you must address. Similarly, you will see that whenever, let's say, some incident have occurred, let's say some rape incident has occurred, so there is often the growing demand that a fake encounter must be done. गाड़ी पलट जानी चाहिए. अब this chant of गाड़ी पलटना or this chant of instant justice is actually the failure, is not allowing the administration to see the failure of criminal justice system. Because the chant of Gadi Palatna, the chant of this quick measures of justice actually reflects the poor state in which our criminal justice system is. Because they are not able to deliver the justice swiftly. Justice वो deliver नहीं कर पा रहे हैं, इसी की वजह से तो चांटारों को, लोगों को भरोसा है कि शायद अब न्याय नहीं होगा. Yes? So you are engrossed with the peripheral issue कि हमको तो इमोशंस मैनेज करने हैं, रिएक्शंस मैनेज करने हैं कि सर और डिमांड बहुत ज्यादा, जनता परेशान है, कुछ ना कुछ करके दिखाना है. नो माय डियर फ्रेंड, यू नीड टू लुक एट द कोर इश्यू. द कोर इश्यू ए, व्हाई दिस इंसिडेंट टुक प्लेस इन द फर्स्ट प्लेस, एंड बी, जो सजा होनी चाहिए वो प्रॉपर ड्यू प्रोसेस ऑफ लॉ से होनी चाहिए. बुलडोजर चला देंगे. सिमिलर यू कैन डिजास्टर मैनेजमेंट. Every year you will see there is a flood in the Bihar. But what is the response of administration? Administration is only focusing on the core issue, on the peripheral issue. उनको रिलोकेट करवा देगा, बाद में उनको कर देगा, कोई मर जाएंगे या प्रॉपर्टी में मुआवजा दे देंगे, बात खत्म. Is it the core issue? The core issue is disaster risk reduction. The core issue is the kind of adaptation and mitigatory measures that you should be taking in place. That is the core issue. उस पे फोकस नहीं है, रिएक्शंस पे फोकस है. आरटीआई लगाते रहते हैं, करप्शन के केसेस आते रहते हैं, तो किसी एक इंडिविजुअल को ट्रीट करना इज वन थिंग, आरटीआई को किसी को दे दिया इंफॉर्मेशन इज वन थिंग, बट आर वी लुकिंग एट द कोर इश्यू? आर वी डूइंग दैट एनालिसिस इन आरटीआई दैट what sort of information is sought so frequently, so we can do that analysis and perhaps declare the information suo moto. Suppose a particular department में काफी ज्यादा केसेस आ रहे हैं करप्शन के, तो आपने क्या किया? आपने जो करप्शन केसेस आ रहे हैं, जो पकड़े जा रहे हैं, उन पे केस चला दिया, कोई बात नहीं. बट शुड यू नॉट लुक एट द रिस्क असेसमेंट? शुड यू नॉट लुक एट द इंटरनल रिस्क मैनेजमेंट सिस्टम कि आपके इंटरनल जो मॉनिटरिंग एंड चेक्स हैं वो कैसे फेल हो रहे हैं? व्हाई देयर इज सो मच ऑफ करप्शन इन दोज डिपार्टमेंट्स? क्या बहुत ज्यादा डिस्क्रिशन है तो उसको बाउंड करिए. उसके भी तरीके होते हैं, हम डिस्कस करेंगे आगे क्लासों में. कैसे हम कौन से सिस्टम वी कैन पुट इन प्लेस सो दैट वी कैन एंश्योर दैट the systemic issue is addressed. It is very easy. People pursue the peripheral aspect easy. स्वच्छ भारत अभियान कराना है तो टॉयलेट बिल्ड कर देंगे, ये नहीं देखेंगे पानी का कनेक्शन दिया है कि नहीं दिया है ना. बेटी बचाओ बेटी पढ़ाओ को नारे लगा देंगे, डॉरी को कोई चेक नहीं करेगा, चाइल्ड मैरिज कोई नहीं, बिकॉज द ब्रिंगिंग द एटीट्यूडनल चीज इज डिफिकल्ट. सो व्हाट वी आर एनग्रोस्ड विद, वी आर एनग्रोस्ड विद अवर पब्लिसिटी. We are engrossed with outputs and outlays only, and we are not driven by core issue, that is outcome. That issue is there. And at times you are grappled with the peripheral issue and not with the core issue, even though you want to address the core issue because of the poor capacity. There are various personnel in the police administration that actually want the police administration should be reformed, but police reforms are not taking place because that are not in their hand. So that is the core issue. The police reform must be addressed. अभी कोई इंसिडेंट हो जाता है criminal rights का, किसी और rights का, what is the peripheral things they will engrossed in? They will simply transfer the SP or even suspend the SP. एक scapegoat बना लेंगे, but they will not look at the kind of reform, police reform that are required to stop that particular incident from taking place in the first place. They will not look at those aspects. Then, as I told you, that you need to give the contrasting examples. You give the examples how in Odisha, 2013 the fallen was there, how it led to losing of around 40 people only lost their life. On the other hand, there were much less severe cyclone in 1999 that led to the so much loss of life. Because we focused on the core issues, not just peripheral issue. You take the case of DBT, auctions of mines, है ना, माइनिंग्स में तो सारे स्कैम आ रहे थे. वी डिड नॉट जस्ट फोकस कि ये पर्टिकुलर केसेस है करप्शन के और हमको इनको जेल भेजना है, रूल ऑफ लॉ में करना है. वी ऑल्सो फोकस्ड दैट whether this what is a systemic problem. Core issue was that mines का auction होना चाहिए. So now we decided कि अब कोई भी माइंस देंगे auction के थ्रू दी जाएंगी. हमने देखा कि बेनिफिशियरी तक फायदा नहीं पहुंच रहा है, मिडलमैन खा जा रहे हैं, आइडेंटिटी वेरीफाई नहीं हो रही है. सो वी लुक्ड एट द कोर इश्यू एंड आइडेंटिफाइड डीबीटी एज द solution. So my dear friends, when you solve such questions, you need to give the both kind of arguments that how when you look at the peripheral issue, it might lead, if we are engrossed with the peripheral issue, it might lead to not addressing the core issues, and what kind of impact it has on effective service delivery and good governance that we have just discussed, and how an alternative approach can help you. Now let us look at this question. This is the very obvious question that is there, that is often asked, that the rules and regulations are provided to all. The rules and regulations that are provided to civil servant are same. सभी के पास same rules and regulations हैं. Very expected theme that is there in your section है. आप अगर ethics को पढ़ रहे हैं तरीके से तो आपको पता है कि ऐसा क्वेश्चन कभी, क्योंकि बहुत expected theme है यूपीएससी का. ठीक है, हम इसको पढ़ते भी हैं. When we discuss rules and regulations are the source of ethical guidance. ठीक है, और कैसे रूल्स एंड रेगुलेशंस के बाद बाकी चीजें पिक्चर में आती हैं. The rules and regulations provided to the civil servant are same, yet the difference in the performance. Some positive minded officers are able to achieve some success, while negative minded officers are not able to achieve the goals. Discuss with illustrations. So it is asking you to give some illustrations. So you must give examples, some examples, a legal connotation examples you must give to highlight this aspect. You must give certain examples. तो कौन कौन से इलस्ट्रेशंस आप दे सकते हैं, एंड व्हाट इज द बेसिस ऑफ दिस क्वेश्चन? द बेसिस ऑफ दिस क्वेश्चन इज टू फोल्ड. वन, what goes in the interpretations of those rules and regulations, and how that sort of discretion must be utilized, and on what factors it depends. For instance, a person with constitutional morality will interpret certain rules and regulations in the favor of constitution or in the favor of public interest. You take the case of negative minded officers. In your article 19 there are reasonable restrictions on article 19 of fundamental rights. Reasonable restrictions is given. The reasonable restrictions can be imposed. But who will decide the reasonableness of those restrictions? So negative minded officers will use those reasonable restrictions in a very negative fashion or as to pursue some motivated interest. आपके पास एडिशन केस भी लगा सकते हैं in the garb of the reasonable restrictions. You know the IT section 6A. You know the how sedition acts are imposed on the journalist in the garb of this only. Yes. Similarly, a negative minded officer will look for the shortcuts. It will look for the apathy. He will be apathetic in perspective. आपके पास सपोज कोई कंप्लेन लेके आए, कोई महिला कंप्लेन लेके आई, सपोज कोई घटना हो गई है एंड यू आर सेइंग दैट ये मेरा जुरिडिक्शन नहीं, आप चले जाइए, कहीं और चले जाइए. Because he is negative minded officer, so he will justify inaction saying कि मेरा jurisdiction नहीं था. And that is something that you will most commonly see in the government department. That they will ask you, they will force you to run from pillar to post. You may also use rules to actually further your own interest instead of public interest. There is a saying that says, show me the man, I will show you the rule. What does it indicate? Show me the man, I will show you the rule. What does it indicate? It indicates that how rules are misused by the negative minded officers. That there is of course rules for every mistake that you are committing. That how those rules can be misinterpreted. Then another aspect is that that we must learn, because that sort of understanding must be there. That how there is a role of individual morality and conscience when rules and regulation does not provide clear source of ethical guidance. You take the case when there is vacuum, there is a legal vacuum. Your section 5.3 of RTI Act. Section 5.3 of RTI Act says that there should be reasonable assistance. There should be reasonable assistance must be provided to a person who is seeking RTI. Now, what does this reasonable assistance means? If you are a negative minded officer, you will not bother look into this thing, ki I need to provide any assistance at all. But if a positive minded officer, you will interpret it differently. So that is the role of how you are interpreting this discretional legal vacuum aspect. On the other hand, the positive minded officers will do the interpretation in public interest. The section 3D of the Indian Patent Act, it restricts the grant of patent for incremental innovations because it will lead to otherwise evergreening of patents. छोटा मोटा innovations करके आप patent को extend करते रहेंगे तो it will be against the larger public welfare. So a positive minded bureaucrat will definitely look that whether that particular innovation for which the patent has been applied is actually an incremental innovation. क्या ये केवल incremental innovation है? That is something you must look for. Then it is also important that positive minded officer will serve the spirit of the act, not just letter of the act, spirit of the act, by doing those interpretations right. Because it is not just important to have the stringent laws, because those laws need to be applied. आप कोई crime हो गया है, so what are the sections that you are putting into the charge sheet is very important. The positive minded officer will try to make the case foolproof. You know about the Asaram case. In Asaram case, the case is being tried under POCSO Act, and because of that it's very difficult to get bail in all such act. Very difficult. POCSO Act is there. The meaning of sexual harassment has been widened after 2012. So what sort of activities come under sexual harassment that goes under the interpretations? The positive minded officer will utilize those sections. Similarly, the positive minded officers will go beyond doing the legal minimum, because in EIA there are definitely some exceptions, and in the manner in which you can thwart the public participation, public consultation EIA process. But a positive minded officer will look for the opportunity. He will look for the opportunity that how he can enhance the public participation. Otherwise तो exception use करके public participation bypass करना तो बहुत आसान है. So by these illustrations, we can make it amply clear that having rules and regulations alone does not help. It is equally important how they are applied, because there are certain loopholes, there are certain legal vacuum, the role of conscience is there, and so it is all the more important because the civil servants का morality है, it has to be sound in nature. So conclusion में क्या आएगा? You will talk about the role of conscience and the cardinal values which must guide your decision making. Cardinal values. And there should be accountability of the people who are negatively using these rules and regulations. Because if that accountability is not there, then it will continue. The misuse of rules and regulations will continue. Let me know if there any doubt you are having. Please let me know. Please let me know if there is any doubt. I think we can start discussing the case study now. This was about what is the ethical issue, the online methodology. Okay, I think you can take the screenshot. We'll discuss it later if time permits. We will discuss two case studies first. Okay, and this question in fact has been repeated by the UPSC. I think a few years back also UPSC asked the same questions. So it is very important that you look at the previous year questions to understand the kind of themes that your UPSC is covering. So now let us look at the case study. Illustrations can be fictionals also. They can be fictionals, but it will only be better if you give the real life illustrations. And I'm sure if you have the kind of clarity that is needed, then you will definitely give the real life illustrations, because all the examples that I used, आप देखिए जितने भी एग्जांपल्स मैंने यूज किए थे, those examples were, आपको पता ही थे सारे एग्जांपल्स. क्या आपको रीजनेबल रेस्ट्रिक्शंस नहीं पता है? क्या आपको रूल्स बिकमिंग एंड नहीं पता है? क्या आपको ये मिसयूजिंग जुरिडिक्शन नहीं पता है? क्या आपको असिस्टेंस वाला क्लॉज नहीं पता है? क्या आपको ऐसे पॉजिटिव यूजेस वाली चीजें नहीं पता है? आपको पता है माय डियर फ्रेंड्स. इट इज जस्ट कि आप चीजों को समझने की बजाय रटते हैं. यू ट्राई टू मग अप थिंग्स, एंड व्हेन यू ट्राई टू मग अप थिंग्स, दीज थिंग्स डू नॉट कम वेरी इंस्टिंक्टिवली व्हेन यू आर राइटिंग द आंसर्स. क्यों लगता है यूपीएससी पेपर को बड़ा बना रहा है, इतना लेंथी बना रहा है? ये लेंथी इसलिए बना रहा है so that you do not get time to manipulate your answers. Your instinct actually forces you to write your answers. So आपके instinct को बेहतर बनाइए, understanding पे काम करिए. You will definitely be able to give, I am very sure you will definitely be able to give the right concept, right answers or the actual illustrations, because you will be, you will have lots of clarity and lots of examples. बिकॉज मैंने आप अखबार जब पढ़ेंगे, ठीक है, अगर आपको क्लैरिटी होगी ना तो अखबार अगर पढ़ेंगे तो आप यू विल बी एबल टू रिलेट दैट पर्टिकुलर न्यूज विद दैट थिंग, सिलेबस टॉपिक ऑफ योर्स. अभी रिसेंटली वन न्यूज इज कमिंग दैट निर्भया फंड हैज बीन मिसयूज्ड टू बाय सर्टेन कार्स एंड समथिंग लाइक दैट. तो कौन से टॉपिक से आप सिलेबस को लिंक कर सकते हो? यूटिलाइजेशन ऑफ पब्लिक फंड्स, दैट हाउ पब्लिक फंड्स हैव बीन मिसयूटिलाइज्ड. All these aspects will only become clear to you जब आप अखबार को पढ़ते पढ़ते आपके दिमाग में एथिक्स के टर्मिनोलॉजी घूमेंगे. जब वो क्लैरिटी आपके दिमाग में होगी तभी आपको वो उस तरह का आंसर भी आप लिख पाएंगे और आपको अंडरस्टैंडिंग डेवलप होगी. ये आप देखिएगा, ठीक है. तो आई होप आपको बात समझ में आई होगी. अदरवाइज देखिए, नोट्स तो मार्केट में बहुत हैं. नोट्स तो आप 50 कोचिंग के नोट्स पढ़ लीजिए, खूब सारे नोट्स बना लीजिए, बट इट विल नॉट हेल्प यू दैट मच. What is important is understanding पे काम करिए. So let us look at this case study. So in this, I think before we discuss this, I will remind you that please watch this video or 7 sins of case study writing so that you understand that the kind of mistakes that are often committed by the aspirants और आप उनको ना करें. ठीक है. So let us read this case study together and let's see that what are the kind of cues that we can draw from this case study. कौन से क्यूज हम केस स्टडी से ड्रॉ कर सकते हैं. So Rakesh was working as a joint commissioner. Joint commissioner means a very significant higher administrative post. So administrative ethics will come into the picture. In transport department of a city, as a part of his job profile among others, he was entrusted with the task of overseeing the functioning of city transport department. That means his task, his objective, his immediate responsibility is to control and ensure the city transportation functions properly. So whatever be the objective of your case study, आप जैसे भी case study solve करना चाहेंगे, back of the mind it should be in your head that you need to ensure the city transport department is functioning properly. Now a case strike was there and over the issue of compensation to a driver who died on the duty while driving the bus. It has come before him. He gathered that the driver deceased was plying bus number 528 which passed through busy and congested road. Now this term busy and congested road, it does have certain connotation that you will see. इसका कोई implications है क्या, ये हम बाकी case study को solve करते वक्त देखेंगे. So you must pick cues from the case study. It also happened that near an intersection on the way there was accident involving bus and the car driver. And it was found that there was altercation लड़ाई झगड़ा हो गया, road rage case हो गया, ठीक है. The altercation was there. Now heated arguments followed और ultimately क्या काम हुआ, both of them were badly injured. Driver जो था he succumbed to the injuries and the other person who was critical but later discovered and discharged. FIR was registered and investigation revealed that a quarrel was started by the bus driver and he resorted to the physical violence and there was exchange of blows between them. Okay, so that is the kind of information that is given in the case study. Now it is asking that the case study, the family is very aggrieved. ठीक है, the city transport management is not considering giving any extra compensation. Some compensation is given but no extra compensation has been given. On the other hand, ठीक है, family is very aggrieved against the discriminatory and apathetic approach of the city transport department and he is survived by his wife and two school college going daughters. Now when all such aspects are written, you must understand कि ये आपको emotional angle देने के लिए होते हैं, ठीक है. तो आप इन चीजों को आइडेंटिफाई करें. इसमें और भी कह सकता था, ठीक है, कि आप इन पे डिपेंडेंट है, यही बस लोग हैं, कैंसर हो रखा है, ऑल सच एक्टिविटीज कुड आल्सो बी गिवन, ठीक है. ये बस आपको ध्यान भटकाने के लिए होते हैं, तो आप इन चीजों को उस चीज से देखें, उस नजर से ही देखें. ही वाज द सोल अर्नर ऑफ द फैमिली, ठीक है. द यूनियन हैज टुक अप द केस एंड दे फाउंड नो फेवर रिस्पॉन्स एंड दे डिसाइडेड टू गो ऑन स्ट्राइक. एंड डिमांड क्या है, डिमांड है फुल एक्स्ट्रा कंपनसेशन एंड एम्प्लॉयमेंट टू द फैमिली मेंबर और 10 दिन से स्ट्राइक चल रही है. सो बताइए व्हाट आर द ऑप्शंस दैट आर अवेलेबल, what are the options that are available to Rakesh to meet the above situation? What are the options that are available? Please write in the case study in the comment box, what are the options that are available? So I think the options are that you may strictly say no, that okay, all these things will not happen, okay, we will not succumb to the demand. You may say yes to both of the demand, yes to one of the demand, two demands were there, full compensation and the job. And then you may also consult them. By consultation I mean that you can talk to them and said that okay, the 10 days strike is there and lot of public anguish is there. Okay, the public is going against you. As you would have seen in the farmers protest also, many people were against farmers simply because they were facing inconvenience whenever they are coming to NCR, either from Jaipur or Haryana or something like that. Okay, so they were facing so much of inconvenience that they used to say that these farmers are not doing good. Okay, so you may also use that as a public the sentiments and they are going against you because of your continuous strike, and the department is facing severe financial crisis because of the financial loss that is there because of the 10 days strike. And if there are no funds, are there because of the financial crunch, then how can you take the initiatives of welfare? So something like that, you may involve that, or you may go through the media or the mediators also, okay, who can discuss the kind of options that are there and just talk to the family and say that okay, it is not just possible, or you can try out some middle path, or media के through भी आप pressure बना सकते हैं, and then you may form a committee. This option we will undertake and discuss later. Now when I say let us discuss one of the option in get detail, strict no. If you say strict no, then what are the positive aspects and what are the negative aspects? what are the merits and what are the demerits of this option? If you are saying strict no, let's say you are saying strict no, then what all options, what is the examination की बात करी गई है, तो let's examine this option. strict no वाला option है. So if you say strict no, then you must utilize various ethical perspectives that are there, various stakeholders perspectives that are there, that what kind of person you are becoming. Virtue approach, virtue approach की बात का, virtue approach पता है आपको? Virtue approach, you are demonstrating your leadership qualities, you are demonstrating your courage of conviction. These words must be there, that you believe that a compensation, the extra demand should not be fulfilled. It demonstrates your strong leadership. Virtue approach से हम देखें. Then it might actually send a strong signal, और ऐसा हो सकता है कि जो public inconvenience है वो दूर हो जाए, जो public inconvenience है वो दूर हो जाए, स्ट्राइक खत्म ही हो जाए. It might also happen. और स्ट्राइक खत्म हो जाएगी तो जो डिपार्टमेंट में स्ट्राइक वगैरह चल रहेगी उसकी आप बात कर सकते हैं, दैट स्ट्राइक जो फाइनेंशियल लॉस थे, ठीक है, जो परेशानियां हो रही थी वो भी दूर हो जाएंगी. आपका भी कद बढ़ेगा डिपार्टमेंट में, बिकॉज यू हैव रिजॉल्व्ड ए पर्टिकुलर मेजर क्राइसिस दैट इज देयर. 10 दिन से ठप पड़ा है पब्लिक ट्रांसपोर्ट एंड यू हैव रिजॉल्व्ड दैट, सो इट विल बूस्ट योर ओन कैरियर एस्पेक्ट ऑल्सो, सो दैट पर्सपेक्टिव इज ऑल्सो देयर. But negatively, if we say that what kind of impact it will have on the work culture, or in particular the morale of the organization, morale of the drivers. It will, in the eyes of those drivers, the administration will look like apathetic, and it is not sensitive to the demands. What kind of impact will have? Then does it impact the obligations of right that is there under Employment Compensation Acts? That Compensation Act is there. So what about the obligations under those act? That righteous things also you talk about. Another negative aspect is your own image, as a leader. It will also take hit. See, the question is quite long. UPSC has asked so many of options in this case. So many of questions are there. At least I think A, B, C, D. 4 questions are there. Options भी बताने हैं, एग्जामिनेशन भी करना है, डिलेमा भी बताना है, और कौन सा कोर्स ऑफ एक्शन लेना है ये भी बताना है. So it is necessary that we should not spend so much of time in examination of each of these options. आप 3 डिमेरिट, 2 डिमेरिट, 3 डिमेरिट, इस तरह से आप लिख के जल्दी से आगे बढ़िए. So what are the dilemmas that are there? We will look at this option later, okay, and we can analyze these options. So let's look at the kind of dilemmas that are there when we are solving this particular case study. Now what are the ethical dilemmas that are there? That the dilemma, अच्छा एक issue आता है कि कुछ बच्चे पूछते हैं कि सर ethical dilemma और ethical issues में क्या अंतर है? They do not know this difference. तो कौन बता सकता है? ऑनलाइन कोई बता सकता है? एथिकल डिलेमा वर्सेस एथिकल इश्यूज में कोई डिफरेंस बता सकता है क्या? एथिकल डिलेमा, हु कैन टेल मी डिफरेंस बिटवीन एथिकल डिलेमा एंड एथिकल इश्यूज? Ethical dilemma and ethical issues. So ethical dilemma is a dilemma, or there should dilemma. You are not able to decide between the 2 options, and both of the options must have some righteous basis. कुछ ethical aspect होना चाहिए दोनों decision में. Ethical dilemma is not the dilemma between right and wrong. There is no dilemma between right and wrong. The ethical dilemma is between 2 rights, because as we know, values have a sense of hierarchy. Yes, values में hierarchy होती है. There might be integrity versus compassion, the objectivity versus compassion. All these values will be an underplay. On the other hand, ethical issue is about when some ethical principles is being broken or is supposed to be broken. That is ethical issue. For example, suppose you are being made district magistrate of a particular district, and suppose somebody comes to you and he says, sir, please have this 1 crore rupees and pass this tender. That is incident 1. Incident 2 is that that person comes to you and he gives you 1 crore rupees and he says, sir, either accept this 1 crore and give this tender, or he also put gun on your head or be ready to die. Then please tell me, in out of both the scenarios, which scenario is about? Out of both the scenario, which scenario is about ethical dilemma and which scenario is about ethical issue? Yes, the first is the ethical issue. There is no dilemma. You are simply taking bribe to give that tender to that person. There is no dilemma. You are violating the rule of law. You are violating the Corruption Act. You are not supposed to take bribe. On the other hand, in the second, there is a dilemma, because dilemma that whether you should pursue public interest or your own interest, because your own life is at threat. You have certain responsibility towards yourself also. So that aspect must be there. So if we highlight that dilemma, whether it is about the equality of treatment or equity of the treatment, because the family members are demanding that compensation must be equal, generally equal, that जो आप बाकी लोगों को देते आ रहे हो, or is it about the equity of that the circumstances should be factored into? Should the circumstances be also factored into? Equity. Whether you be sympathetic to the cause and leave it there, or you take certain more action to alleviate the sufferings, or you actually उनका जो डिमांड है उसको आप पूरा करें. Whether you do this one time assistance or set the kind of precedent, why? By succumbing to their demand. Because if you succumb to their demand, you will understand that what kind of because it will set a very bad precedent कि किसी ने strike resort करी और अपनी बात मनवा ली. Whether you should meet the demand outrightly or you should continue the loss of public exchequer. Loss of public exchequer is there because for 10 days the transportation has not functioned. Quality of service delivery that is there to the public versus to that of family members. Because family members are also suffering. The people, the children who are dependent on that, children and the wife who are dependent on the person. So, which inconvenience you should prioritize to solve? So, all sort of ethical dilemmas you can write here. But what you should do? What you should do? So, before we discuss this thing, so mota factors हमने देख लिए. What all are the factors that we should look into? ठीक है. So, what should be your principles? I am not going to much details of the options because of the time constraint we have. ठीक है. In coming days, perhaps we will find some time and discuss this case study at much greater length. Okay, so let us look at the kind of approach we should have towards solving these case studies. ये case studies हमको कैसे solve करनी है? So do you know that there is term that says that the accident that are arisen out of and in the course of employment, to what extent it is the responsibility of the employer? To what extent it is the responsibility of the employer to compensate for the loss? That is the first aspect. Because is there any relationship between the loss that has occurred, the death that has occurred, and the nature of the employment or during the course of employment? For example, let's say that some hazardous working conditions are there, and if you want to act in those hazardous conditions, you need to wear let's say certain safety jackets. Certain safety jackets has to be put on while working on those working there, and that will ultimately lead to that will not lead to any harm. But if suppose any worker does not wear those safety jackets and start working directly and he dies, so to what extent the management is responsible? There lies another term that says contributory negligence. To what extent the negligence of that employer has also played the role, or to what extent the negligence by the employer is there in that death. देयर हैव बीन सर्टेन कोर्ट रूलिंग्स, एक ट्रक ड्राइवर की डेथ हो गई थी, तो जब कोर्ट ने कंपनसेशन अवार्ड किया तो उसमें इस बात को फैक्टर इन किया कि दैट ड्राइवर वाज ड्राइविंग टायरलेसली फॉर क्वाइट सम टाइम, काफी लंबे उनके ड्राइविंग आवर्स थे, एंड बिकॉज ऑफ दैट हिज कंडीशन वाज असेंचुएटेड, कुछ मेडिकल कंडीशन को ऑलरेडी थी जिसके ग्राउंड पे कंपनसेशन डिनाई पहले किया गया था, और फैमिली ने फिर कोर्ट को अप्रोच किया, तो कोर्ट ने यह बात कहा कि दैट कंडीशन वाज असेंचुएटेड बाय द कंटिन्यूअस वर्किंग आवर एंड दैट वाज द फॉल्ट ऑफ एम्प्लॉयर, सो सम कंपनसेशन वाज गिवन. So the principles on which we will operate is, A, we need to see to what extent it is during the course of employment, that part is true. To what extent the nature of job has contributed to this death, that is one aspect. So how we shall do it? So we will form a committee. We will inquire first about the accident. In that inquiry, we will first inquire that we'll inquire about the accident and find out whose fault is this. ये fault किसका है? क्योंकि इसमें लिखा गया है कि मारा पीटा हो गई है, ये सब हो गया है, बट हो सकता है कि जो पहला ऑफेंस है वो सामने वाले ने किया हो, जो जनरली रोड रेज हो जाता है. तो ये बहुत इंपॉर्टेंट है ये जानना कि एक्चुअल में फॉल्ट किसका है. पहले हाथ उठाना इज वन थिंग और पहले गलती करना इज सेकंड थिंग. तो फॉल्ट जब हम फाइंड आउट कर रहेंगे, देन वी विल ऑल्सो लुक एट द कॉन्ट्रीब्यूटरी नेग्लिजेंस, दैट हाउ मच कंट्रीब्यूशन ऑफ एम्प्लॉयमेंट इज देयर इन सच रिएक्शन, हाउ मच कंट्रीब्यूशन इज देयर. बिकॉज हमने पहले देखा था केस स्टडी में दैट स्टार्टिंग में लिखा हुआ था दैट इट इज द रोड्स आर वेरी कंजेस्टेड, और वहां से रूटीन और बिजी ट्रैफिक से वो बस ड्राइवर जा रहा है. सो हाउ much is the role of those working conditions on the mental health of the driver that has perhaps led to that quarreling with the driver. हो सकता है कि वो मेंटल फटीग और जिस तरह का वर्किंग कंडीशंस का रहा, जिस तरह के रोड से वो बार बार ड्राइव कर रहे हैं, उसकी वजह से वो उनका जो आपा है वो जल्दी खो गए. So we need to look at this aspect as well, that to what instance it is there, to what extent that contribution of employment is there in his mental health. Another aspect is previous instances. What is the character of that particular driver? Is it the case that that driver quarrels too often? बार बार वो लड़ता ही रहता है. क्योंकि अगर बार बार लड़ता ही रहता है, then it is problematic thing. Then of course his claim of compensation will be less. In the death penalty cases or the various cases, the courts also look at this aspect, whether it is repeat offender or the first time offender. So if it is the case he is a repeat offender, then his claim on the compensation will be much less. And if it's a first time offender, then of course things will be different. So we will look at those aspects as well. So just compensation must be awarded. To vast extent it will be full or equal to others will depend upon the kind of contribution that is there of employment. The nature of working conditions that are there, उस पे डिपेंड करेगा. लिखा हुआ है ना यहाँ पे कि थ्रू बिजी एंड कंजेस्टेड रोड से वो ड्राइव करते थे, बिजी एंड कंजेस्टेड रोड से वो ड्राइव करते थे. And that aspect is actually taken into account. ठीक है, contributory negligence. For example, only 50% of the relief of the kin of peon who jumped from the best bus and died. जो मेरी बस चलती है उससे 1% जंप किए और मर गए, तो उनको 50% ही कंपनसेशन दिया गया. उन्होंने बोला ड्राइवर को रुकने को, ड्राइवर रुका नहीं और जंप किए, ठीक है, और वो मर गए. तो फैमिली वालों को क्लेम था कि ड्राइवर ने नहीं रोका टाइम से, इसलिए उनको जंप करना पड़ा. ठीक है, लेकिन द फैक्ट इज वो जंप भी किए, इसीलिए 50% compensation was given. So we will take into account the factors, to what extent we are responsible for this case, to what extent that has taken the toll on his mental health. That is important. And where this employment thing is concerned, you need to look at this ruling which says that a death of government employee does not entitle family for a job. It has to be done on a case by case basis. केस बाय केसेस पे देखेंगे, इनको एंटाइटलमेंट नहीं है कि आपको जॉब दिया ही जाएगा. Are there other ways also to help that family? We must first exhaust them. What are those claims that needs to be done? And if you are doing it, that is a choice that you have to make. You can actually give the job or do not give the job. That is up to you. But if you give the job, then you must highlight the aspect that it will be a one time only. It will not be treated as a precedent. Few years back, I think last year only, UPSC had agreed to give one extra attempt in an affidavit to the Supreme Court. It had agreed to give one extra attempt to the UPSC aspirant on the charge of COVID-19, and it was written that it will not be treated as a precedent. It is done on a one-time measures only. So that sort of something you can also write here. And when you are giving employment, if you are giving employment, if you are not giving employment, that is also fine. What is important is that how you are arriving at the decision making. Examiner, see, in case study, how many do you think will make the unethical decision? No one will make the unethical decision. No one will say, I will accept the bribe. No one will say. So, more often than not, the responses will be same. What is important is that on which factors you are going to make those decisions, that is important. वो important part है जो हमको जरूर देखना है. So now we are telling the examiner, look sir, that is how I am going to proceed. That is how I am going to pursue this case. Okay, so that is something that you must look at. Whenever you are solving the case study, you must look at these aspects where you are telling the examiner that how you are going to arrive at a particular conclusion or decision making. Okay, in ethics, that is more important, not just the decision. So let us look at this another case study, that Ramesh is a state civil service officer who has got the opportunity of getting posted to capital border state after rendering 20 years of service. Mother has been recently detected cancer, admitted to the leading cancer hospital in the city. 2 adolescent children has got the admission in one of the best public school. After settling down the appointment as director of the home department, he got confidential report through intelligence sources that illegal migrants are infiltrating. Now these aspects like rendering of 20 years of service, that there are some obligations, there are certain obligations of Ramesh in terms of that his mother has been detected cancer और उनको hospital में भर्ती कराया गया है, and children has got admissions. These are very important critical aspects. They have also got admission in one of the best school of the town. After settling down, the director, he has got some intelligence report that the illegal migrants are infiltrating. ठीक है, और क्या इंफॉर्मेशन दी हुई है कि he has got red-handed 2 families और 12 members जो with the connivance of security personnel infiltrate किए हैं, और they are उनके पास बाकी जो डॉक्यूमेंटेशन आधार कार्ड ये भी वहां पे है. तो रमेश ने डिटेल्ड रिपोर्ट प्रिपेयर करी है, एडिशनल सेक्रेटरी ऑफ स्टेट को सबमिट करी है, बट उन्होंने सम्मन करके उनको बोला कि इनको विड्रॉ करिए, और ये इट हैज नॉट बीन अप्रिशिएटेड बाय द हायर अथॉरिटीज, और अगर विड्रॉ नहीं किए तो प्रेस्टिजियस अपॉइंटमेंट से बाहर फेंक दिए जाएंगे और उनका जो प्रमोशन है वो जेपर्डी में आ जाएगा. तो यहाँ पे देखो ये बहुत स्टैंडर्ड टैक्टिक्स है यूपीएससी की. यहाँ पे जो लिखा हुआ है, ठीक है, कि प्रमोशन जेपर्डी में आ जाएगा, अपॉइंटमेंट हर जाएगा, ठीक है, दे जार द पुल्स, ठीक है, कि आपको पोस्टिंग अच्छी मिल जाएगी, ठीक है, और स्टिक भी है, और कुछ आपके पास पर्सनल ऑब्लिगेशंस भी यूपीएससी ने बना दिए हैं. वेरी स्टैंडर्ड फॉर्मेट इन सॉल्विंग योर केस स्टडीज. आप बहुत केस स्टडी में ऐसा देख लोगे, ठीक है. सो इसमें ये इंपॉर्टेंट है कि हम इन सारी जिम्मेदारियों को भी कंसीडर करें, इन सारे एस्पेक्ट को कंसीडर करें जब हम केस स्टडी सॉल्व करें. ये बात समझ में आ गई आपको, ये बहुत इंपॉर्टेंट है. सो व्हाट आर द ऑप्शंस दैट रमेश शुड एक्सप्लोर? सबसे पहले वही डिस्कस कर लेते हैं, देन डिटेल हम डिस्कस करेंगे इनके रीजनिंग एस्पेक्ट. बिकॉज इन केस स्टडी एक चीज जो हमने लर्न करी है वो ये करी है कि इट इज इंपॉर्टेंट दैट वी टेल द एग्जामिनर एज टू हाउ वी आर अराइविंग एट ए पर्टिकुलर डिसीजन. एट द सेम टाइम हम क्या जो क्राइटेरियाज हैं, डिसीजन मेकिंग क्राइटेरियाज उनको फॉलो कर रहे हैं. एट द सेम टाइम इट इज ऑल्सो इंपॉर्टेंट वी टेल द एग्जामिनर दैट व्हाट इज द जस्टिफिकेशन फॉर टेकिंग दैट पर्टिकुलर एक्शन. जस्टिफिकेशन को भी एग्जामिनर को आपको बताना है. बिना जस्टिफिकेशन बताए काम नहीं चलेगा, इसको आप समझिएगा। तो कौन से ऑप्शन से आप उनकी एडवाइस फॉलो कर सकते हैं, इग्नोर कर सकते हैं? इंटरनल विसल ब्लोइंग, एक्सटर्नल विसल ब्लोइंग, ऑल दीज एस्पेक्ट्स कैन बी डन। Of course, first you should pursue internal whistle blowing, and what are the arguments, हम इनको अब अच्छे से डिस्कस करेंगे। So first and foremost argument is definitely national security. You look for the cues that are there in your case study, और आपकी केस स्टडी में सबसे पहले लिखा हुआ है नेशनल सिक्योरिटी का आर्ग्यूमेंट, बॉर्डर स्टेट इन्फिल्ट्रेशन, और नेशनल सिक्योरिटी एस्पेक्ट इज देयर। So whatever the decision making that you are going to make should be decided, should have this consideration of national security. Another aspect that is there is utilization of public fund, because these people have all the documents and are availing all the public services that are there. So government resources that should have been spent on Indian citizens are being spent on somebody जिनके entitlements नहीं। So utilization of public fund is also आपके syllabus में topic है, it is also not proper. Another important aspect is rights of Indian citizens are also somehow affected, because right to food, right to education, and so many rights are there. So of course there is limitation, ऐसा नहीं है सबको गवर्नमेंट दे पाती है, तो उनके क्लेम्स अफेक्ट हो जाएंगे जिनके प्रति स्टेट का अंडर सोशल कॉन्ट्रैक्ट हैज मोर रिस्पॉन्सिबिलिटी। यू विल ब्रिंग इन द सोशल कॉन्ट्रैक्ट हियर, सोशल कॉन्ट्रैक्ट वाला आर्गुमेंट यू कैन गिव हियर। नाउ दीज are something that has been given in your case study directly. Now you will look at the more ethical aspect, that is crisis of conscience. There is no court higher than the court of conscience. So if you do not submit the report, it will lead to the immense crisis of conscience, because 20 years का आपका एक्सपीरियंस है, आपको पता है, आपने देखा है, सस्पेक्शन, रेड, everything is very objective and it is there. Another aspect is virtue. This virtue approach is very important. This virtue approach tells us that, virtue approach क्या बताती है? Virtue approach बताती है कि virtues are result of our habitual actions. What we do habitually, we become that person. That is what virtue approach tells us. So we will become a coward if we are not following these actions. We will become a coward. अगर हम रिपोर्ट सबमिट नहीं करते हैं तो व्हाट काइंड ऑफ पर्सन वी आर बिकमिंग? वी आर नॉट फॉलोइंग आवर कन्विक्शंस, वी आर नॉट शोइंग करेज ऑफ कन्विक्शंस, वी आर नॉट शोइंग करेज पर से, तो वी आर बिकमिंग कॉवर्ड। तो क्या हम कॉवर्ड बनना चाहते हैं? हम डरपोक बनना चाहते हैं? बिकॉज इफ वी आर डूइंग दिस हैबिचुअली, देन दिस इज द सॉर्ट ऑफ पर्सन वी विल बिकम। दैट इज व्हाट एरिस्टोटल सेज। देन व्हाट विल बी योर रेपुटेशन एज ए सिविल सर्वेंट? यू आर इन अ प्रेस्टिजियस सर्विस, प्रेस्टिजियस पोस्ट, 20 साल का आपका एक्सपीरियंस है। विल यू बी ट्रीटेड एज ए प्लाइंट सिविल सर्वेंट? एंड इफ यू आर ए प्लाइंट सिविल सर्वेंट, विल यू बी इफेक्टिव? जो आर्गुमेंट मैंने आपको सबसे पहले दिया था, आपके कोटेशन वाले क्वेश्चंस में डिस्कस में कर रहा था कि इफ यू बिकम अनएथिकल इन सम सॉर्ट, यू बिकम प्लाइंट, और यू आर swayed by the aspects of promotions and transfers, and you make some unethical choices because you want some good postings and quick promotions, then will you be effective in those jobs? No, you will not be. क्या पोस्ट ही एंड्स है? पोस्ट एंड्स है, पोस्ट के लिए आए थे कि काम करने के लिए आए थे? Suppose you are in superintendent police or some smaller district, some incident has taken place there, and the local politicians has offered you some favors if you can just bury the case, and you have buried the case because of those favors, and you have got now prime posting in a large city, and now there is some case in which you want to take action. Now ये जो चीजें छुपती नहीं, ultimate truth will come out, and somebody will point it on you कि you did this and you did this in that case, so please do this the way we are telling you to do, otherwise things will not be good for you. Will you be effective in those postings? एक बार आपकी नाव में अगर छेद हो गया, पानी भर गया, तो आप उठ नहीं पाएंगे. Once you do a sin, it is easier to do it again. You can write such sort of arguments in your case study. Then it is also important to ensure the accountability of the erring personnel, because there was one line in your case study जिसमें आपने पाया था कि connivance of the officers, security personnel was there. लिखा हुआ था ना आपके इधर, connivance is there. लिखा हुआ था, इट इज हियर ओनली, connivance of officers was there, with the connivance of the security personnel at the border post. So it is also important that इनका accountability fix हो, because otherwise work culture will be vitiated. वर्क कल्चर विल बी विशिएटेड. अब पता पड़ जाएगा साहब तो कुछ कहते नहीं है, साहब को सब कुछ पता है, दे हैव ही हैज इवन मेड अ रिपोर्ट आउट ऑफ इट, तो लोगों को पता पड़ जाएगा. जब को कहना ही नहीं है, करना ही नहीं है, तो फिर व्हाई विल यू नो पीपल फॉलो एथिकल एक्शंस. देन यू आर आल्सो बिट्रेइंग द सिटीजंस ट्रस्ट, you are also betraying the citizens trust, and ultimately if you do not submit the report, ultimately the truth will come out. Even if you do not submit it now, somebody might file an RTI letter कि ऐसा कोई रिपोर्ट था क्या, है तो बताओ. some otherwise media may also leak the information, पता चल गया तो truth तो बाहर आना है. You may also write the argument like shelf life of lie is very small, shelf life of lie is very small, ultimately truth will come out, and when the truth will come out, it will be embarrassment to the government, embarrassment, the media pressure will be there, international approval will be there, because the border angle is there, and then you will also be guilty in the court of law. आपने रिपोर्ट पब्लिश नहीं करी, आपने एक्शन नहीं लिया. You will be guilty in the court of law. International approval will be there. Now, I am very sure आप arguments भी लिख देंगे, आप एक्शन भी वही लोगे, और you will try to justify हम ऐसा क्यों कर रहे हैं. एथिक्स का एंगल देख लिया, वेरियस केस स्टडी का एंगल देख लिया, वेरियस एथिकल अप्रोचेस हमने देख ली, हमने प्रैक्टिकल एस्पेक्ट्स भी देख लिए. ठीक है. नाउ केस स्टडी में कुछ डिमेरिट्स हैं. Certain demerits are there in the case study, because if you suppose choose to make this report public, there will be consequences for you. What are those consequences? Your mother, you know, who is a cancer, रमेश की जो माँ है वो कैंसर पेशेंट है, और वो हॉस्पिटल में इलाज करवा रही हैं अपना वहीं के, और बच्चे वहीं के किसी कॉलेज में भर्ती हैं, एडमिशन ले रखा है, एंड आपका ट्रांसफर एंड पोस्टिंग भी जेपर्डी में आ जाएगा. सो दीज आर द डीमेरिट्स. तो अगर आप अपना आंसर यहीं खत्म कर देते हैं तो आप आंसर पूरा नहीं कर रहे हैं. यू आर नॉट राइटिंग द फुल आंसर. आपको मार्क्स नहीं मिलेगा उतना. आपको मार्क्स इसलिए नहीं मिलेगा बिकॉज देयर इज वेरी मच इंपॉर्टेंस ऑफ दिस डीमेरिट्स. यू मस्ट एड्रेस दिस डीमेरिट्स एज टू व्हाई दीज डीमेरिट्स आर एक्सेप्टेबल टू यू, व्हाई दिस कॉस्ट इज एक्सेप्टेबल टू यू. अगर सपोज ये डीमेरिट्स ना होती जो डाले गए हैं, डिलेमा जो ना होते, फिर तो कोई केस स्टडी नहीं बनी ना. फिर तो सिंपली है रिपोर्ट आप दे दीजिए और आप सारी चीजें फुलफिल कर रहे हैं. फिर तो केस स्टडी नहीं है, कोई आपको डीमेरिट ही नहीं है, तो आपको कोई कॉस्ट ही नहीं है. तो आप उसको एड्रेस करिए कि व्हाई दिस कॉस्ट्स आर एक्सेप्टेबल टू यू. यू विल टेल व्हाई दिस प्रेस्टिजियस पोस्टिंग्स एंड ट्रांसफर्स जो आप लूज करने वाले हैं ये एक्सेप्टेबल क्यों है. तो परहैप्स आप कहेंगे कि पोस्टिंग्स आर ए मीन टू ए लार्जर एंड. केवल पोस्टिंग से क्या होता है, जो मैं आर्गुमेंट थोड़ी देर पहले दे रहा था. एंड ट्रांसफर 20 साल की सर्विस आपकी हो गई है. यू शुड नो दैट ट्रांसफर्स आर ए वे ऑफ लाइफ ऑफ ए सिविल सर्वेंट. तो सिविल ट्रांसफर से डरना क्या. द अदर डीमेरिट इज, ठीक है, कि आपके जो वो हैं माँ हैं, उनका अस्पताल में इलाज है, उसका दिक्कत हो जाएगा और बच्चे वहां पे पढ़ रहे हैं. अब ये आपकी जिम्मेदारी है. इट इज योर रिस्पॉन्सिबिलिटी. आप भाग नहीं सकते. आप ये नहीं कह सकते कि देश सेवा सर्वोपरि है एंड पैट्रियोटिक जो ड्यूटी है सबसे पहले, माँ का कोई बात नहीं है, माँ आप चली जाए तो चली जाए. ऐसा नहीं लिख सकते. आप लिख दोगे क्या ऐसा? ऐसा लिख ही नहीं सकते. यू कैन नॉट राइट सच थिंग्स. तो व्हाई दैट कॉस्ट इज एक्सेप्टेबल? नो, यू आर, बिकॉज यू विल बी एड्रेसिंग दैट रिस्पॉन्सिबिलिटी ऑल्सो, बिकॉज इट इज नॉट प्रैक्टिकल. इट इज नॉट प्रैक्टिकल कि आप माँ को अकेला छोड़ दोगे अगर वो कैंसर में वहां पे इलाज करा रही हैं. तो इट इज नॉट प्रैक्टिकल. तो अगर आप ये केवल लिख देते हो और ये वाला पार्ट एड्रेस नहीं करते हो तो आपके आंसर में वजन नहीं है. नो वन विल बिलीव योर आंसर. सो यू मस्ट एड्रेस व्हाट विल यू डू विद रिस्पेक्ट टू दैट रिस्पॉन्सिबिलिटी. आप ये कह सकते हो कि योर वाइफ माइट स्टे देयर इन दैट कैपिटल. आपके जो वाइफ है या भाई हैं, जो भी रिलेटिव है, वो उनका इलाज वहां पे साथ में करा सकते हैं. और यू मे एक्सप्लोर सम अदर एस्पेक्ट्स. और कोई सी हॉस्पिटल में आप इलाज कर सकते हैं जहां आपकी पोस्टिंग होने जा रही हो. आपकी 20 साल की सर्विस रही है तो आपके फ्रेंड्स भी होंगे उस कैपिटल सिटी में जो पोस्टेड होंगे. तो परहैप्स दे कैन एक्ट एज लोकल गार्जियन फॉर योर चिल्ड्रन हु आर स्टडिंग इन द कॉलेजेस. So basically you must tell the examiner that you are very much aware of the responsibilities. आपकी responsibilities को लेकर आपको awareness है, आपको जिम्मेदारी का एहसास है, and you are going to address those responsibilities also. उसकी आप जरूर बात करें. आप ये भी बात करें कि it is your duty as a director कि वो report publish हो. It is your duty. It is duty to address, to ensure that the immigrants का जो conditions है वो human conditions हो. क्योंकि जब तक आप उनको रिकॉग्नाइज ही नहीं करेंगे तो आपके ह्यूमन कंडीशंस के लिए बात ही नहीं करोगे. ये बात एस्पेक्ट समझ में आ रहा है आपको? सो आई होप आपको ये समझ में आया होगा. पिछली केस स्टडी में हमारा फोकस था कोर्स ऑफ एक्शन में कैसे क्वालिफाई करनी चाहिए डिसीजन मेकिंग. इस केस स्टडी में जस्टिफिकेशन आपको मैंने बताया है, और जस्टिफिकेशन का भी एक एस्पेक्ट है कि डीमेरिट्स को भी आपको लिखना है. थोड़ा सा समय का कंस्ट्रेंट है, अदरवाइज हम और डिटेल में बाकी ऑप्शंस एंड डीमेरिट्स को हम डिस्कस करते. बट आई होप यू आर एबल टू अंडरस्टैंड व्हाट आई एम ट्राइंग टू व्हाट पॉइंट आई एम ट्राइंग टू मेक हियर. डिसीजन मेकिंग प्रोसेस उसमें कैसे करनी है और इसमें मेरिट्स एंड डीमेरिट्स को आपको कैसे एड्रेस करना है, इस चीज को आप जरूर देखें. नाउ एथिकल डिलेमाज क्या हैं, आप उनकी भी बात कर सकते हैं जो आपसे पूछा गया है. That it is a personal responsibility जो आपकी मदर और बच्चों के प्रति है वर्सेस प्रोफेशनल ड्यूटी. रूल ऑफ लॉ वर्सेस ऑर्डर ऑफ सुपीरियर कि आप रूल ऑफ लॉ फॉलो करें और जो भी इलीगल इमिग्रेंट्स हैं उनको बाहर करवाएं, या अपने सुपीरियर्स का ऑर्डर हायरार्किकल ऑर्डर फॉलो करें, ऑर्गेनाइजेशनल एथिक्स को फॉलो करें. लीडरशिप प्रेसिडेंट ऑर्गेनाइजेशनल एथिक्स. ऑर्गेनाइजेशनल एथिक्स आपको मानती है हायरार्की को फॉलो करा जाए, और लीडरशिप प्रेसिडेंट बिकॉज यू आर ऑल्सो डायरेक्टर ऑफ द डिपार्टमेंट, तो आप भी क्या लीडरशिप प्रेसिडेंट सेट करते हैं, दैट इज ऑल्सो इंपॉर्टेंट. And then the national security versus personal security. आपके जो concerns हैं, that is also important versus national security. Hierarchy versus concerns. अपने concerns की बात मानेंगे. What kind of person you want to become? Virtue approach से courageous man who is following his heart, or a family man जो बाकी responsibility पूरी कर रहा है. ठीक है. So these are the type of dilemmas that you write in your answer. ये of course बहुत बड़ा A B C D E 5 पार्ट है इस क्वेश्चन के, तो यू कैन नॉट राइट टू मेनी ऑफ डिलेमाज हियर. बट नेक्स्ट पार्ट ऑफ द आंसर इज दैट व्हाट आर द पॉलिसी मेजर्स दैट यू विल सजेस्ट टू कॉम्बैट द मेनेंस ऑफ द इन्फिल्ट्रेशंस. नाउ व्हेनेवर दैट थिंग दैट आई एम गोइंग टू make a point here is that whenever you come across this term that policy measures कौन से होंगे, it is not just about the kind of measures you are going to give, it is also about the wholesomeness of the measures. It is about the multi-dimensionalness of the measures जो आपको दिखाने हैं. Otherwise more often than not आप लोगों के आंसर्स एक ही पर्टिकुलर जोन में आके रह जाएंगे. Wholesomeness of the measures will not be there. So if we look at this particular case, we are talking about legal deterrent, about the implementation of these acts. We are talking about the bilateral agreement because international aspect is there. Infiltration is going on, so you need some cooperation with the neighboring country. Information exchange होना चाहिए. All those aspects should be there. Coordination mechanism should be put in place. All those aspects must be there. You must strengthen the border policing. You must use these keywords that you will be, border fencing, flood lighting, high resolution cameras, ground sensors, कि ये आ कैसे रहे, infiltration को actually रोका कैसे जाए, what are the ways through which these people are coming. So legal aspect, international aspect, and then actual जो measures हैं, border control measures, उनकी आप बात करेंगे. Another is national identity card also can be pursued to actually differentiate between the illegal immigrants and legal immigrants. You can also sanitize the local administration because such sort of things are not possible without local support. Local support has to be there. So you must take care of it. Local support का को take care करना है. So that will mean that you जो local ground है, local officials हैं, border guards हैं, उनका भी आप प्रॉपर ट्रेनिंग कराएं एंड इंश्योर करें कि वो भी ऑन बोर्ड हो इन चीजों में, और उन लोगों की अकाउंटेबिलिटी भी रखी जाए. जो बॉर्डर मैनेजमेंट डिवीजन है यूनियन होम मिनिस्ट्री का, ठीक है, दैट कैन टेक द लीड इन दिस एस्पेक्ट. Another political angle is there that at times there are vote bank politics that goes on in such areas, and if that is there, then it will be very difficult to contain these aspects. So political consensus must be built. कि भाई ये नेशनल सिक्योरिटी को थ्रेट है, डो नॉट सी देम फ्रॉम पर्सपेक्टिव ऑफ नैरो पॉलिटिकल लेंसेस. because if it is there, it will create problem. Work permits may also be given to ensure that some people who wants to work in your country, they can come through regular and official channels rather than rather than infiltrating through the illegal channels. Then of course you can engage with the civil societies, NGOs, as well as the facilitator centers can be there, where you can detain and you can deport the foreigners who are there. So what is important here is that you are able to tell the examiner that you know the different perspective that you must be using, different types of solutions that you must be undertaking to take this crisis, to tackle this crisis. Otherwise mostly आप यहीं पे रह जाओगे, यहाँ रह जाओगे, यहाँ रह जाओगे, NGOs भी लिख दोगे शायद. But a whole set of comprehensive picture you must provide. Legal, international, border policing measures, capacity building measures are there, political angles are there, economic angle, work permit economic angle is there, civil society angle is there, then actual deportation कैसे होगा, all angle are there. So I think through these brief discussions, I have been able to convey the points that in section A, it is important that you have absolute clarity over the ethical concepts so that you can give multi-dimensional answers and use examples in your answers, arguments. And इन केस स्टडी हमने 2 या 3 चीजें सीखी जो मैं कह सकता हूं. हमने सीखा कि कोर्स ऑफ एक्शंस हमको कैसे लिखना चाहिए, हाउ वी मस्ट क्वालिफाई अवर डिसीजन मेकिंग, डिफरेंट फैक्टर्स हमको कैसे बताना है, हाउ वी कैन जस्टिफाई अवर एक्शंस इंक्लूडिंग द डीमेरिट्स ऑफ द चूजन ऑप्शंस, एंड if we were to give the policy measures, then they should be comprehensive in nature. So these few aspects we got to learn from today's case study discussion. It was not humanly possible कि मैं सारे case studies को सारे aspects उतना डिटेल में डिस्कस करूं. So I picked certain aspects so that आपको बात समझ में आए कि कैसे case studies को approach करना चाहिए through different examples. Now, my dear friends, we are going to start the Ethics Foundation course from 19th of December, that is coming Monday. And the objective और जिस तरीके से उस कोर्स को पढ़ाया जाएगा is that it should be able to build the foundations. आप चाहे आपने ethics पहले पढ़ा है चाहे नहीं पढ़ा है, it will be immaterial. we will build the foundation, we will start from the scratch and will take you to the most applicable जो बातें हैं कि कैसे उन एथिकल कॉन्सेप्ट्स को हमको अप्लाई करना है, आंसर्स में कैसे उनको यूज करना है, कैसे डे टू डे ऑब्जर्वेशंस को यूज करना है, कैसे हमको आर्गुमेंट्स, काउंटर आर्गुमेंट्स, मैक्रो पर्सपेक्टिव, माइक्रो पर्सपेक्टिव्स को यूज करना है. ऑल दीज एस्पेक्ट्स वी विल बी लुकिंग एट थ्रू दोज क्लासेस. एंड trust me, the approach of that class will not be with respect to only content. It will be like the building your foundations for the ethical understanding. आपको conceptual clarity देने का प्रयास करेंगे. And the pedagogy, we will be having some homework. In that homework, you will be asked to brainstorm certain burning issues in the society. You will be asked to write down answers on certain sort of questions that will expose you to certain ethical stimulations that we will do. We will also be giving you certain ready-made templates. कुछ जो ethical themes हैं जहां पे questions बार बार आते हैं, हम उन पे भी चर्चा करेंगे. So let's see you all in the 19 December की क्लास में मिलते हैं. So please come and let's begin the learning of Ethics Foundation. Thank you so much.